Hello and welcome along to this extended version of this week's Sideline View here on Clare FM. Derek Lynch with you this evening. Coming up on the show, we will look back on Clare's brilliant win over Tip in the Munster U20 hurling final and look ahead to what will hopefully be a brilliant win over them in the Senior Championship on Saturday evening too. We also have our Greyhound Focus slot, and Ballyea will be the focus of the latest episode of More Than a Club. There is only one place we could start this evening though, and that is of course with Clare's incredible victory over Tip in the Munster U20 hurling final on Wednesday night. 2:24 each after extra time, and it was the brilliance of Mark Sheedy in that penalty shootout as he made 3 outstanding saves while burying his own penalty as well to help give Clare the crown for just the 5th time in our history. Let's listen back to the winning moment and get some reaction from the players and management on the field in the TUS Gaelic grounds.
Stephen Tobin again, he's looking at the goals. Mark Sheedy is still inside in the goal mouth at the moment. Stephen Tobin again lining up to take this one. You could hear a pin drop in the Gaelic grounds here in Limerick for just a moment. That's all you're waiting for. But it's Stephen Tobin once again. He's about to strike and he says, "Oh! Munster under 20 hurling champions. Mark Sheedy has pulled it up right inside in the goal mouth, and if ever you saw drama, it's absolutely here. The whole stand has come down on the field here. Mark Sheedy has been absolutely surrounded down on the edge of the 20 metre line.
Derek, just over the moon, but look, I'm just looking around at the lads, and for everything that they've put in over the last 3 years, it's just a credit to them. There's tough times that happen off the field for all of us, and just want to mention Maeve Kilroy, and watching Ronan leave everything that he had out there. That's the stuff off the field that matters. But bringing any little bit of joy to families like that they have today, it's all about them, and they've been fantastic.
And that unity and togetherness, there was 2 huddles on the field there, I think, at the end of normal time and again at half time and extra time, and you could just feel that. I heard someone screaming, I don't know who it was, 10 minutes lads, 10 minutes to empty here. That was the message.
Yeah, and when it gets to that stage, you're praying to God the cramp doesn't kick in, and you're praying to God other stuff doesn't kick in. But the big thing is that the mind stayed strong on every single moment. Just live by something that's called win what's important now, and it's just winning that small moment. And they won so many of them today. And look, it's a cruel way to lose. Unfortunately, these lads, same bunch of lads, a lot of them were here against Tipperary in the minor, and it is a cruel way to lose. And unfortunately, there has to be. We're just so proud, so delighted we came out on the right side of it today. And just a special mention to Mark Sheedy. Some of the saves he made were just fantastic against really, really top-class strikers. 2 county seniors inside in that striking, and so just from 1 to 38, the unit was strong.
And not just the saves, but then to stick his own in the manner that he did. And even in that first half, with balls dropping into a blinding sun, which is long gone behind the hills now, but it's just so steady from there on.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and look, he's an inter-county senior goalie, and it just shows the strength we have of keepers in the county, that he's struggling to kind of maybe even get into his club team, which is a credit to what 6 Mile Bridge have, and they've always had a good, I suppose, tradition of keepers down through the year, but his trajectory's only gone up.
This whole group though, they put us through the ringer, they put Jeed through the ringer right throughout. This game tonight, I think we had it maybe 12 or 13 times they were level throughout the contest, and then it goes to a sudden death penalty, so way for thin margins here.
Yeah, look, and we've come out on the wrong side of him so many times. There's been Munster finals, like last year, the black card, we got outscored 2-4 to a point in that period, and it felt like it was going away, but I suppose the big thing is, we 223 hit tonight, and it's a long way from 110 the first night, so these lads just love playing in front of big stadiums, and I just want to pay special thanks to every single person from Clare that came out to support these young fellas tonight. The joy that you can see, and the one thing that they love is they just love grit and determination, and this crowd will always get behind you. And I just want to wish our senior team all the best as they head to Thurles on Saturday as well, and please God that this might kickstart a really good week for us.
One big game left for you this year?
Yeah, looking forward to it already, and just rest up the bodies, and I suppose this is possibly the first time that maybe the Munster Championship has been one where there's been 3 teams going 3 weeks on the bounce. It's a very, very hard, it's a ruthless championship, and just really, really relieved that they came out on the right side of it today.
Now delighted to have a Munster Championship winning captain. He lifted the All-Ireland title at minor. Here he is, an under-20 Munster winning captain, Owen Gunning. Can you sum that up for me?
Oh, it's hard really. It was just a humdinger of a game. 2 teams going hammer and tong for I don't know how long, 80 minutes. And look, we got out on the right side of it. Last year was just pure heartbreak, and we said it coming back this year that we were going to give it everything and just empty ourselves. And we did today, and look, it went to the last puck of the ball and we got over the line, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, what about your man in the goals to not only save the 3 but stick his own as well?
Yeah, he's top class. I had no fear of him saving the penalties, and he makes it dramatic, to be fair to him, but as long as we've that cup going home, I don't care what he does.
But what a game. In a lot of ways, that game perhaps was a little microcosm of your entire season. It had everything. It had drama, it had grit, it had class, it had everything that you wanted.
Yeah, look, Tip, to be fair to them, they came in waves. And when Oisin O'Donoghue came on, we stepped it up. We got the goal soon after it. And it's just all about the group, to be honest. Like, it took so many lads featured out there today and just emptied themselves for this county, and it's just a joy to see.
Was it a case of all those previous experiences, be they winning at minor, disappointment at 20, just having the experience to kind of mould it together when it was needed?
Yeah, look, we have an experienced group. Like, there's a lot of lads here who were there last year and who've been playing for Clare for a long time now underage. And it was just shackles off stuff. We'd no fear. They were going for their 3 in a row. And it was our turn to just upset the odds and just get over the line. Yeah,
you mentioned that in your speech, I think, between Hearties and everything else. Tip maybe had been having the balance at this level with Clare, so really important that was arrested.
Yeah, look, this is a huge day, and we did mention it during the week that they'd taken a lot of medals from us, and this wasn't one that they're going to be able to take from us, no way.
One more game to go.
Yeah, look, one more. I said it in the speech. Extremely excited, but we're not getting ahead of ourselves too much. Like, obviously, we're going to enjoy this, but we'll keep an eye on that game too. Like, no matter who comes through, we don't mind.
Do you think Terence is going to give you a couple of nights off now? Will he be soft?
I don't know. I suppose that's up to him, but we'll see. But knowing our group will only be meant to get back to training anyways.
Fantastic. Now, one of the major heroes of this victory is here with me, Mark Sheedy. Is it going to take a couple of days for everything that just happened there in the last 80 or odd minutes more with the penalties to sink in?
Yeah, it'll definitely take a while to sink in there now. It was so frantic. It was such a fast-paced game. It just had everything, I think. You know, it was an enthralling game. I can't really put it into words, to be honest. I still can't get over the penalty shootout. I still can't get over it, to be honest.
Yeah, what's the mindset of a goalkeeper that leaves his line to go and hit one and then goes back in again? Like, you must have gone through every emotion, were you?
I suppose you kind of would. Like, I suppose we were kind of fortunate enough to be there 3 years ago. No, we didn't come out on the right side of it 3 years ago. We didn't, and like, we did know, we knew it was going to be a close game against Tipperary, and we were kind of set up for a penalty shootout. We did do our homework on it, and it just paid off today. Like, you can see the last penalties were excellent. They were, and I suppose from my point of view then it's just kind of to trust your reactions inside there, trust your instincts inside there. It's just, I got caught 3 years ago for advancing off my line for the first penalty, so for Oisin O'Donoghue's penalty I just kind of had to hold my nerve. Like, he's a brilliant penalty taker, and I just kind of had to trust myself inside there. That's all you can do.
Gunning reckons you make some of the saves a little bit more dramatic than they need to be. I have to give you a right reply on that one.
Jeez, I don't know. When he's coming out with the ball, he's some man to the dive himself, so I'd hit back at him. I know, like, look, it's all part and parcel of the goalkeeping, I suppose. Like, I think every goalkeeper likes to do an old photo save, I suppose.
It must be some year for yourself, making your senior debut for Clare and now a Munster champion.
Yeah, I suppose it is special. Like, it is. Like Friday dressed it there before we went out to extra time. You're dreaming of days like this, like when you're 6 or 7 years of age, there poking the ball off a wall. Like, you're dreaming of being in a Munster championship and in a Munster final. And we really did just relish the battle out there. And I'm just so delighted for the 36 lads in the panel. They put in so much work in the winter, like so much work. And I'm just delighted to see it pay off.
And now a bit of downtime perhaps before getting ready for an All-Ireland final?
I suppose, yeah, we'll just we'll enjoy tonight anyways, definitely. And get the bodies right anyways for the weekend, and we'll just turn to training again. I mean, we're all just so happy that we've 2 more weeks with each other now, and just 2 more weeks of training, and see where it takes us then.
Now, delighted to have Ronan Kilroy here in the Gaelic grounds as a Munster champion. Ronan, what a journey this whole thing has been.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Like, this group of players, like, we set out to start the year. We've lost a Tip there. Article lads, fans lads, lost them in Harty finals, lost them in Munster final last year, and we set out to start the year that we wanted to win that Munster championship, and no, it's absolutely a dream come true, unbelievable.
You showed defiance all year, whether that was grit in those earlier runs in 6 Mile Bridge. I think Andy Fahy just reminded me there, 110 that night, 223, 224, whatever it was tonight. It's been some mark of development.
Yeah, no, Terence always uses the word grit and fight, and playing for the badge, playing for the people of Clare that come to watch us, and no, that's all we like. If you work harder and have more fight than the other team, you're going to come out on top. And yeah, just the way we've improved all year and how the team has changed, and especially how the panel has changed at 38, No, we're just flying it, and then that All-Ireland final in 2 weeks will only be up another notch again.
What was it like on that field tonight? Because there was times in the stand where the tip chant rose. Came back with Clare. We'll hear more of it on Saturday night, but it seemed like a crowd that were really getting behind you.
No, that's probably the biggest crowd I've ever heard at an underage match, and the echo off the stand there was unbelievable. And even there at extra time, when the game had been going on for long, it was louder than ever. And so thankful to the supporters there, and I'm so thankful to our teammates that we put out such a performance there.
Yeah, there's a real bond. This is like a group that are really together.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, even this is my third year playing under 20s. There's a lot of lads my age that have played it for 3 years now, and we're just like, we're all best friends off the pitch as well. Like, and even the new lads coming in, they've slotted right in this year, and you'd be good mates with everyone on the panel. Not one fella left out.
There's no hope you go and win a game comfortably besides putting everybody through the ringer, is there?
No, not at all. I actually probably didn't have any comfortable win all year. It was probably the only comfortable win. It was probably the Limerick game. We won that by only 3 points. So it's a great way to win the game anyway. It makes it a lot sweeter coming out on the winning side there.
And as you say, an All-Ireland final to look forward to. This group are used to those, I suppose, and used to winning them too. Hopefully that continues. But 2 more weeks of Terence shouting at you on the training field anyway.
Yeah, no, I can't complain. Terence deserves this more than anyone. He's been at this 4 or 5 years, and he does unseen work behind the scenes. He's a brilliant manager. I can't speak more any highly of him. And we're going to be so excited about now that All-Ireland final will be rest and recovery over the next few days. And I just ask whatever Clare support can be there. You don't realise the difference it makes on the field. It's such a 16th man there, and that All-Ireland final in 2 weeks, I'd love to see a massive banner crowd there.
And mentioning the banner, it's apt because that was going to be my last question. What does this mean to the little club on the Shanaway Road that won a Junior C title only less than a decade ago? Now we're up in those intermediate ranks, an All-Ireland winner with Shane and a Munster winner with yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a little club anymore now, but no, it's huge for the club with the banner. Yeah, we are still a small club and struggling for numbers at times. But no, we're only going up, like, we're a dual intermediate club now between football and hurling, and and with the banner, there's such a special bond with them group of lads as well, and they're all here supporting me tonight. So it means a lot for the banner, especially with Shane winning the All-Ireland nowadays, and hopefully I can push on and win another All-Ireland. And we're definitely only going upwards there in the banner, and I can't speak morally better about them. They made me the player who I am today, so they're a brilliant crowd down there.
Now, Terence Fahey, you've been trying to take it all in here for the last while. It's going to take a little bit longer, I'd say, for it all to absorb.
Yeah, sure. Look, it'll be very enjoyable watching it back, and extraordinary night, a real epic night, and a real just the spirit in the team, and just the refusal to wilt was just extraordinary. But that's in them.
Yeah. Someone made a great point there. They were saying the road to get here was a bit like the corkscrew hill. It was anything but straightforward. Does that make it even sweeter?
It does. Like, it's 4 games against Cork and Tip in 3 weeks. So I don't think anyone ever faced that before. And being on the road and then trying to get bodies right, and then not able to win in 60 and not able to win in 80, and then winning at the end. But we were laughing at it, we were just saying this is getting better than we thought, because it was going to be sweeter, and that's the way it has worked out. And yeah, extraordinary. Penalty shootout was extraordinary, and the 5 lads to step up and take on that responsibility, Jesus, phenomenal. And then the save to win it at the end was an exceptional piece of hurling skill, and sure, what a way to win it. Mark was here in 2022 in the minor final against Tip, and he was at the other side of that. And my God, yeah, tremendous.
And there was a bit of a surreal moment at full time of extra time where I think the crowd in unison just applauded what the players on the pitch had given them in terms of the entertainment of the night. At that stage it was in the lap of the gods, but just such an appreciation for what the players had done.
I think that was it. Sure, look, that was it. It was just what players were giving outside there for an underage match. It was thunderous. Some of the hits were thunderous, and Tipperary are great champions. They're All-Ireland champions. They've the last 2 Munsters. They're great champions, and we knew they were you know, they weren't going to give it up easy.
Your backroom team turns have played some part in this as well. It's been such a collective effort, hasn't it?
Absolutely, extraordinary. And we have a small crew, but we've the right crew. And look at the lads; they just give so much. And there's only one focus, and they've done extraordinary work in a low-key way with the group. Not just over today or this year. You know, they're there 5 years now, so we got our few breaks tonight.
And for yourself, to get ground, something of a happy hunting ground for Munster finals. Your Harty Cup success was here, and now your Munster under-20 win.
Yeah. No, it was an extraordinary day in 2022 when it took an extraordinary performance, a spirit and grit from the Tulla lads, and they brought it in spades that day, and the Clare lads brought it in spades today. And it takes that to win a Munster championship. It takes all of that. And we're just so proud of the lads that we had them in for the battle tonight.
And it was very fitting you used a particular word there, because two of the players I spoke to tonight have said it's one of your favourite words, grit. How much of an importance is that, given it's probably a natural thing that you cannot coach?
Yeah, well, you know, you won't come out of battles consistently. You have to have a bit of that, and you have to have a bit of that in elite sport. The people, it's not about talent, and you'll perish if you're relying on only talent. You have to have a bit of stickability and a bit of ability to come back from setbacks, because it's not linear. You know, underage sport, it's not a linear process. It doesn't go in a straight line. There's knockbacks and setbacks, and you have to have grit to get back up and reboot and go again. And our team has spades of it. Will
you give them a few nights off now, or is it back cracking the whip again?
I'm sure they're going to have what they've done in the last 3 weeks. It's going to take a while to recover, but we have a few days, and we'll let this breathe now for a while and let the players breathe and recover, because how they've represented the county in the last couple of weeks in particular has just been exceptional.
Now that is Clare manager Terence Fahy there, as the floodlights were fading in Limerick on Wednesday night. Congrats to all involved in that one, and we will have an All-Ireland final to look forward to against either Kilkenny or Galway on the June bank holiday weekend. Now, welcome back here to Sideline View, where we're continuing our look back on Wednesday night's game, and indeed turning the focus ahead as well. Delighted to have Tommy Guilfoyle and Paul Carroll of Tip FM to do just that with us. Paul, we'll start with yourself perhaps, or make you start off on this one by looking back on Wednesday night perhaps. But I suppose, look, from a Clare perspective, obviously thrilled, but I think from a neutral point of view, everybody was just so entertained. Like that moment at full time of extra time where everyone just started clapping to acknowledge what the players had delivered for the previous 85 or 6 minutes. What a game. What has the analysis in Tip been like after it?
Yeah, just on that moment, Derek, it was unreal. And even the way the players reacted, like all the players nearly went over to each other and were shaking hands at the end of extra time. So much so that I was like, oh, maybe this isn't going to penalties, because everyone was taking off their helmets and all that. But yeah, brilliant acknowledgement from both sets of players and the supporters on the night. Just an incredible game of hurling. Drama, it had everything kind of, and loads of entertainment. From a Tipperary perspective, the analysis has been pretty much that, you know, we were beaten by some brilliant shot stopping by Mark Sheedy in that penalty shootout. You know, the 3 penalties he saved were all really well struck. You couldn't say any of the Tipperary lads, you know, kind of crumbled under the pressure or anything. They hit the shots where they wanted to hit them. It's just Mark Sheedy kept them out. And the other big talking point from a Tipperary point of view is 20 wides in a game. You know, I think in normal time Tip maybe had 16 or 17, and Clare I think only had maybe 3 or 4 in normal time. And you know, when you're drawing a game, that tells its own story. Like, you know, in that first half, 13 wides for Tipperary. You know, it's going to make it very hard to win a game when you're doing that. So some poor shot selection, some poor composure at times for Tipperary, but you can't be too critical of them, because they gave it their absolute all. Like, you know, at the end of, I'm not even sure, was it normal time or extra time? I think it was normal time. David Costigan made a brilliant dive and block. I know it did fall back to a Clare man, and the referee blew the full-time whistle, but you know, that was just happening all over the field for both Tipperary and Clare, like 2 really evenly matched teams. And I'd say if they played each other another 10 times, it would go to penalties another couple of times at least, because really, really evenly matched.
Yeah, as it did 4 years ago, and the same goals actually for that penalty shootout below at the City end as well. And Tommy, was something Owen Gunning mentioned speaking to him after the game. He actually used the phrase that Tipperary have taken enough medals off us, we weren't going to let it happen again. So, I mean, this is a group that have gone through the ringer. Okay, they've got their minor medals, but they have minor disappointment and under 20 disappointment as well to go on top of it. So it seems like they used everything.
Yeah, look at it. Was you use any bit of motivation that you can get, but this particular group of players under the management, I think the management always trusted, what he had, but we had a slow start to the championship. We got over the line against Waterford and Limerick, and I think probably, the changing point was, getting that. 8 points in the last couple of minutes to be tipped down in Thurles, which kind of kick-started our Munster Championship campaign. We went to Cork, it didn't work out there. The following week, back down to Cork again and probably put in our most complete performance. But yeah, look, we probably as supporters always felt that there was more and more in them. But, steady incremental improvement game by game, culminating in the Munster Championship on Wednesday night was, fitting reward. And sometimes in sport you don't get the reward. And look, I'm sure Tipperary aren't using it as an excuse. I'm not sure penalties are the way to decide it, particularly young and up and coming players. It can have a lasting effect on them. Whether it's a block or whether it's a save or whether it's a miss. But yeah, look, delighted for Clare. But I have to concur with both I think the applause from the supporters was in recognition of the honesty of effort, the endeavour, the spirit the game was played in, the scores that was taken. I think there was a general appreciation of the display put on by both sets of players. And as I said to someone, display and a game like that is good for the soul. Maybe not for the heart, but good for the soul.
And I think, lads, as we look forward towards Saturday evening now, I think Tommy, you, and I'm biased in saying this, gave us one of the radio moments of the year, and he summed it up brilliantly and simply at the end of the penalty shootout when he just declared, "Mark Sheedy, I love you." I thought it was just a brilliant way of tying it all together anyway.
I've been a fan of his, and he sometimes gives me the heebie-jeebies at times because he's so cool. The high ball coming into the square, there's no urgency, there's no panic, just does what he has to do and get out. I was trying to, maybe you mightn't be old enough to remember a goalkeeper from Chelsea, Peter Bonetti. He was known as the Cat. I think Mark Sheedy we could put into that same bracket there from a soccer parlance, because he was always great at plucking the ball or blocking the ball at a great height and that. So Mark Sheedy is the new Cat.
Lovely. No, so we've heard a lot about goats in recent times, but Tommy has rebranded that now to the Cat. Okay, lads, we'll move on because this isn't sponsored by Dublin Zoo this evening. We'll go to Semple Stadium, where it might be an absolute jungle of a war zone, perhaps, Paul Carroll, because here are the All-Ireland champions teetering on the brink. That's the way we're going with it anyway. Defeat will end the season. It'll be in front of their own supporters. Disappointed maybe to get the draw with Waterford, knowing that this is just all on the line stuff. What is the general feeling down there? Is there a nervousness? Is there a kind of a confidence that we are champions, or what way is it kind of being sold?
I nearly don't know, Derek. No one really knows what way to think. And even 3 weeks on from that game against Waterford, I still don't know whether it was a good point or a bad point. We were up by, 11 points at half time. We were down by 2 points with a few minutes to go. Then we're up by 3 points at the last bucket of the game before conceding a goal. So that game was what it was. But for Tipperary, there's a general sense that we haven't clicked yet. Throughout the year between the league, we've been motoring away, kind of ticking over, but we haven't really hit the heights of last year. Maybe in little spells of games. But while there has been good spells in games, there's been equally bad spells, particularly in the third quarter. We saw that down in Waterford 3 weeks ago, and also that third quarter against Cork proved fairly costly. I think they went 10 points to 1 in a period of 15 minutes. So Tip can't allow that to happen on Saturday evening. But a general sense is it's kind of now or never for 2026 for this Tipperary team. And what they showed us last year was that when their backs were to the wall, that's when they pulled out their best performances. So it's going to take their best performance this year to get over the line. But this is just a real proper Munster Championship game now. So much jeopardy. The last two All-Ireland champions battling it out, knowing that a loss, particularly for Tipperary anyway, will have us finished for the year, and a loss for Clare will be a killer blow as well, although you've Cork to come in that final round. So it's just set up perfectly. How it's going to go, if you go off last year's game in Ennis, it's going to be another brilliant game. There's going to be 30,000+ people at it. And yeah, the feeling in Tipperary is that we were in this position last year. We were 1 point after 2 games, and we played Clare in our 3rd game, and that's where the season kicked off. So we'll be hoping for something similar. But if I know anything about the Munster Championship after commentating on the games for the last 4 seasons, is you just don't know what to expect when it comes to Munster Championship, because anything can happen on any given day.
Yeah, Tommy, no changes to the named Clare team, and I use the word named as probably the most important word in that sentence, because 6:30 tomorrow we might get a better idea, I would imagine. A couple of little positional switches. I don't know if that's mind games as well, with Kelly at 15 and O'Donnell at 10. What's your feeling on it? Are we expecting changes, or could it be the ultimate double bluff?
Yeah, well, I mean, the general opinion around the county suggests that, yeah, there should be changes in defence, because it's been well, highlighted and noted that, we've been conceding a loss. So, the expectation would be, but I'm not sure will they. I think the Leicester, it wasn't just 1 or 2 players will say was a no-show or a collapse, or that. I think it was the entire team. Now, maybe, that the management have enough trust and faith in these players, to send them back out again. And it's not going to change the Limerick result, but it's a chance to, to show that wasn't our real form. From looking at it myself, there are potentials. The talk David McInerney or John Condon might come back in. But I'm not sure that. I just think that, and we've spoken a lot about this, Derek, about, there's times during the games when you have to lock up the shop and, let the storm pass. But we seem to trust our players, but it hasn't been working out. But then again, I think the full back line will only be as good as the protection they're given by, indeed, the rest of the lines in front of them, because for too easy against Waterford, against Limerick, there was no pressure on the ball going into the inside line. It was ideal ball for forwards to come on to. So I think, the first line of defence has to be started at number 15. So, do I see changes? Potentially, yes, but I wouldn't be too sure. I think that possibly maybe David McInerney may start. I'm not sure. Diarmuid Stritch may be better off to be held. We saw Jack O'Neill coming in. We know what Ian Galvin does. I think they will give him probably another chance, not to redeem themselves, because look, you can't change the Limerick game, as I said. But one thing, was the manner in the defeat. We've recovered, and Limerick have beaten us more times than we've beaten them. But I suppose it was the manner of the defeat which worries the supporters and the people looking on. But on the flip side of that, our record in Thurles, has been very good. So it's not as if we're going into a haunted house where we haven't had any joy. I think, that Clare relish playing in Thurles, against Tipperary. There'll be 30+ there. So I think both sides on the line, this is definitely knockout hurling time for both teams. So a rip-roaring game, I'd say. And again, from a Clare point of view, not to be conceding goals.
And Paul, I'm just thinking about this game in the context of the first maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Like if Tip start fast and get the home crowd on side, and that feel good factor is there, the swagger and that natural, I suppose, confidence that comes when Tip are flying could see them start pulling away. But I'm just wondering if it was the other way around. If Clare were to hit the ground running and maybe exercise some of the ghosts of a couple of weeks ago, does the home crowd then get a little bit antsy, a little bit nervous? Does that feed down onto the team? So I'm just wondering how much the tone of the game is going to be set in the first quarter. We talk about the third quarter a lot. I'm just wondering about the opening tomorrow evening.
Yeah, like you'd imagine both teams will be hopping off the side for the first 20 minutes. And yeah, like, from a Tip point of view, you want to hear the tip chants at every
no, Jesus, no.
We want to hear that as much as we can throughout the game, particularly early on, but it's funny as well. This Tip team, Joe, we've had bad spells in matches, but we've tended to finish quite well. So I don't think there'll be any panic no matter kind of what happens early on, Joe. This is a fairly experienced team. I think you're looking at 13 of the starting 15 from last year's All-Ireland final, with Oisin O'Donoghue and I think was it Alan Tynan are the only two that didn't start that final that are starting here tomorrow. So it's an experienced Tipperary team, so they won't. I don't think there'll be too much nervousness, but the expectation in Tipperary anyway is certainly that the Clare we saw against Limerick is not going to be the Clare coming down to Thurles on Saturday evening, where I'd be expecting a huge reaction. I think that's just the way this Munster Championship goes, the way these players are built now after experiencing the round robin for the last 7 or 8 years. Is one bad result, you just have to forget about it and move on, and I think the modern day players are quite good at doing that. So this is a whole new game. Matchups are always going to be important. I think you'd probably see Ronan Maher and Peter Duggan like you saw last year, probably Robert Doyle following Tony Kelly, no matter where he goes. But I'd say there's going to be an awful lot of movement between both sides. Like Tony Kelly can come out anywhere from the half back line nearly. He might drift out as far as, and Peter Duggan can go in edge of the square. Likewise, Shane O'Donnell could go in edge of the square. And for Tipperary, Jake Morris moves in and out. Oisin O'Donoghue can play anywhere really from 5 to 15, so he'll move around. And an interesting one for Tipperary is on the bench, Jamie Ormond, number 21, first time he's been involved in the senior matchday squad. And he scored 1-5 against Clare in the under-20s on Wednesday evening. So he'd be a younger brother of Andrew Ormond. And Andrew really had his kind of coming out moment for the Tipperary seniors in Ennis against Clare last year when he scored 2 goals and a point that night. So maybe we see something like a Jamie Ormond coming off the bench maybe late on and doing something. But I think I just have a feeling that this game is going to be one of those games where we're all looking at the fourth official holding up the extra time or the additional time to see how much he's going to play, because I think it's going to be really close heading down the end. I just think Clare will have a big reaction. Tip have it all to play for, so both teams will just leave it all out there and see what way it falls.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating mixing bowl to go into. But like Tommy, from a Clare point of view, just as Paul is going through the Tip forwards there, it's not alone their movability, it's their mobility. Like it's a fast pacey line, and the fact that they can all rotate pretty easily mixed in with the fact that we tend to leave space, for me that would be of a concern, and surely something management would have looked at as to try to shore it up.
Look, at anyone that has played in the defence would love any forward to stand up beside him for the 70 minutes, but unfortunately that day is gone. Yeah, it is the movement, and the pace which frightens defenders, and Tip have that in abundance, because a defence isn't allowed to settle into a kind of a connected, tight unit, and that slightly worries me. But as I said, I actually think that where Clare's troubles start is the delivery of the ball into the inside line. Coming out of our forwards, going through our midfield and our half-back. So I think everyone is going to have to, push up and make it something similar to what we saw Wednesday night. Where you hadn't time or space on the ball, where there was physical hits going in, you given and taken, and, move on. I just wonder, Paul, from a Tipperary perspective, and we'll say the hurling people, why or what would be pointed as being reasons why that, as All-Ireland champions, that they haven't kicked on? Because I was very disappointed, in the Cork Tip game, because I felt Tipperary, were disrespected as All-Ireland champions, as we were the previous year, where it was poor Cork should have beaten Clare and poor Cork should have beaten Tipperary. I would have thought that would have really stung the Tipperary players and management, but that wasn't very visible. Is the hunger and desire still there, after last year's success?
Well, that's the questions that have been put on this Tipperary team. It was probably what everyone was talking about at the start of the year, was hunger. But I think now that talk is out there and they've had 3 weeks off since the last game, I'd imagine Liam Cowell will have the knives sharpened. And there's a lot of this Tipperary team, I mentioned at the start, they just haven't clicked. They haven't got to the levels that they were at in 2025. I could name names, but you'd be ended up naming, I think, the whole starting 15. That could you say any of them are as good or have shown as much form this year as they did last year? And the answer is probably no for the most part. So a lot of players have a lot to prove now for Tipperary, and Tip, I presume it's the same in Clare. I know it's certainly the way in Tip that you're nearly only as good as your last match, and a lot of these players spoke last year about walking around in 2024 and feeling that they couldn't really show their face after an embarrassing Munster Championship campaign, and they had it obviously right last year, but they'll feel now that walking around this year that they have to show it again, and that they just have to show it Saturday nights. So it's really interesting. Like, the narratives will just switch completely on 70 minutes of hurling. If Tip are best and if they're bet well, tomorrow night you'd be saying, people will be saying, the 2025 was a bit of a flash in the pan, people might say. But then if they win, it's all out in front of Tipperary again. So it's that's what makes it so intriguing. But I think Tip, Clare have shown vulnerability in the back that you've spoken about, just concession of goals and things like that. But Tip, we haven't been as deadly in front of goals as we were last year in terms of goal chances and putting them away. Like, we should have scored maybe at least 2 more goals against Waterford. Sam O'Farrell had a big chance that clipped the outside of the post. Billy Nolan made a brilliant save, obviously from the Darren McCarthy penalty, which was poorly struck on the night, but he also made a brilliant save from John McGrath. So Tip are getting the goal chances. It's just about putting them away, and they'll have to put them away tomorrow night, because it's often mentioned the Clare attack, like the likes of Peter Duggan, Shane O'Donnell, Mark Rogers, Tony Kelly, all of those lads can put up big scores on you, never mind the other lads as well. So if Tip are going to have to win this game, which they are going to have to win this game, they're going to have to score, I would say, at least 3 goals and certainly be more clinical in front of goals. Yeah, should be lively on the field and lively in the commentary box as well. We'll have to get that partition up there between Tommy and Ken Hogan, I think, to keep them apart at times, but certainly one to look forward to, lads. We'll get our rest ahead of that, get the stretches and water in, and we'll all face for Thurles, but not by that road in through Borrisalee, lads. Avoid it if you can. That's the advice we're getting from the Gardaí anyway. Find another way in through Newport or whatever way it is you're going. We'll all meet up, lads. We'll have a chat after Whicher Weather, and thanks for taking the time to have a talk with us.
Okay,
sound Derek.
Let's hear now from Clare selector Ken Ralph. He's been telling me how things have been since that Limerick defeat.
The last couple of weeks, Derek, have been mixed, obviously. Delighted to get the 2 points in the first game, but obviously very disappointing to get nothing out of the last game against Limerick, and probably more disappointing just let's be honest, it was a no-show really from us. So very disappointing. So obviously went from the highs to the lows of the Munster Championship. So we're in the middle of it now. We just have to try and pick ourselves up and go again. But no, the training has been good, and it's been positive reaction from everyone. So we just have to plough on and see, can we get the train back on the tracks, I suppose. Yeah, it might be a strange thing to say, but I suppose the fact that it was such a no-show, as you said yourself, is it easier then to maybe write it off a small bit and say, do you know what, it was just a poor day, we didn't get the 2 points, we can park it and move on? Sure, look, it's never easy to overlook it like that. It happened, obviously, and it's as I said, it's very disappointing, but it is and has been the kind of the way of the Munster Championship over the knockout, the round robin for the last number of years. You just have to roll with the punches, and when all the points are added up at the end of it, you hope you have enough to get out in the top three. And that hasn't changed this year. There's highs and lows every year. Very rarely you'll see a team go and win all their games and out they go. It's it's about just getting out of the group, I suppose, first and foremost. And if you get to Munster final after that, then it's brilliant. But look, that's where we are now. We have we have a lot to play for, and we have to try and get back on track and see can we get out.
Yeah, was that the kind of message delivered once that fog of disappointment might have lifted a small bit, that, you know what, this is still in our own hands, we can still be masters of our own fate here?
Yeah, well, look, that's been kind of the way we've rolled for the last couple of years. We have a very mature bunch of players, and we've seen this before. We've started off Munster round robins over the years and lost the first round, which can be harder to get your head around. It's harder to pick yourself up after that, maybe. So we've been here before, Derek. So no, as I said, the manner of the defeat was very disappointing. But we could have played out of our socks against Limerick and came up a couple of points short. We'd be no better off. We'd still be only 2 points on the board. So look, as I said, we have to roll with the punches. We have to take the learnings from it and focus on Tip now, All-Ireland champions, and see where it gets us, I suppose.
Yeah, just looking back on it, is there anything that has stood out to you maybe on reflection as to what would have led to maybe some of the lethargy that we saw, or is it just a case of a day that got away from you, or how did you read it?
Well, I suppose, look, first and foremost, we had Limerick coming to town off the back of a defeat. League champions, 5 times All-Ireland winners, 6 or 7 times Munster champions, and the narrative out there by some commentators would have been, Limerick are underdogs here and it's up to Clare now to finish them off. And like anyone who knows anything about sport, if you were in that Limerick dressing room for the last couple of weeks, bearing in mind the top class sports psychologist, that's an awful dangerous team to be coming to town. They had, they're saying, they're missing a couple of players, but you see the quality of players that have to come in, and basically their Munster final appearance possibly on the line here. So, look, they were always going to come to town with the war paint on, all guns blazing, and we didn't meet that train. We just didn't. And I suppose my own view on it would be that, when a team doesn't show up, I think it's a management. As management, we have to take that on the chin. It's our job. It's our job to make sure our team turns up. Now, over the years, I suppose we've generally showed up for matches and died with our boots on. But this was one of those times that it just didn't happen. So, look, you could look at a whole load of things, Derek, as to why it didn't work for us. But there's 2 teams involved here, and they came, gunning for blood, and we just didn't match that. And of all teams going, if you don't match Limerick for that, they're going to beat you up, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and I suppose again they got in for that early goal and had plenty of space and time with which to get in for it. Is that something that maybe has been looked at?
Well, I suppose, look, the first few minutes we were probably a bit slow to get into our stride. It was probably 15, 16 minutes gone. We were down probably 5 or 6 points. We're still okay. We hadn't, as I said, hit our stride. But then we got a black card. We're down a man for 10 minutes. And look, against a team like Limerick, it's hard enough to try and beat them with a full complement. But when you're down a man, 10 minutes, they knocked up. In 10 minutes, they knocked up another 8 points. So, look, give Limerick that kind of a lead. From there on, it was probably chasing our tails a small bit. So, so from that early in the game, we hadn't really got into the game. We went down a man, conceded another 8 points. Look, it was probably over, Derek, to be honest with you. Especially when you see in the frame of mind they were in. I suppose when a team like that gets a run in you, they don't take the foot off the pedal. They want to, leave scars. So yeah, look, that's probably to answer your question. Yeah, look, conceding an early goal, lapse of concentration, I suppose. But when they got the extra man, they really buried us. And sure, look, you can point to a thousand things after that, really. But that's the damage was probably done early. Yeah.
And looking ahead, then you mentioned the dynamic of the dressing room and the narrative with Limerick and all the rest of it, but you'd be probably fairly safe in thinking that Liam Cahill will be inside in his dressing room saying, lads, this is our backyard, they're coming down, if they beat us, that's all our All-Ireland title gone. Are we going to let that happen? So, and from our perspective, you've a case of going down and saying we can get third here and knock out the champions. So there's a lot of narratives to play out in this one.
Yeah, and as I said at the start, Derek, this is typical Munster champion round robin hurling. That's the same story every day, every year. So that narrative is there nearly every day. So yeah, look, Tip probably scrapping for their lives. We're doing likewise. So as I said, they're all Ireland champions. They beat us last year. They're obviously a good team. So yeah, look, what has happened in the last two games for them and us probably doesn't matter now. So it's all on the day again. So you'd be hoping that things will go our way and get out of there with something, yeah.
And it has been a happy hunting ground for us, whether that's, beating Waterford when it was their home patch. We've had a very good record against Tip in Thurles. The venue shouldn't frighten Clare anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't think the venue really plays that much of a role anymore, Derek. The players now play round robin. It's not like years ago when once every 2 years you go somewhere. All the players now are playing in all these big stadiums on a regular basis. So I don't think that's really an issue. No, it's all on the day. It's all what team comes with the right frame of mind and who's best at executing their game plans, and that's generally what it comes down to. So that won't change on Saturday evening.
And just on the injury front, of the medical team being busy, or how are things looking?
Yeah, look, so you're always going to have middle of championship, you're always going to have niggles and strains and worries and stuff like that. So we just have to manage that as best we can. I'm sure it's the same for every team. So so look, that doesn't change. It's the same every week. Derek, as you may know, hurling is a tough sport, and you're going to get your bangs. So you're going to have to just carry on and do your best. Soldier on.
That is Clare hurling selector Ken Ralph there. We can hear now from one of Clare's 2013 All-Ireland winners. Podge Collins has been looking ahead to Saturday's game.
Today against Waterford, the lads played really well. It was really free-flowing hurling. Got loads of scoring opportunities, took them well. Lads looked sharp. It was a very positive performance. And then against Limerick, just things didn't go to plan. It was one of those days where every ball, there was balls dropped, there was misrises, there was balls not going to hand. And it just sucked the life out of us, and just all the kind of 50-50 decisions and breaks just seemed to go Limerick's way. So I don't think it was a season-defining game, and it's just a kind of case of hoping that the lads will dust themselves down after that, get on with it. I think it's good that we had the week off after that, Derek, and that we had a 2-week break into the Tipperary game. Gives us a lot of time to prepare for Tipperary, and as well as that, we like going to Thurles. It's a venue that we've had good success in, so it's something that I think the Clare players will relish and look forward to. It gives us a great chance.
What's it like being inside in the middle of a game like that, where you know in your heart and soul things are not going right and everything is just clicking for the opposition? Is it a mental challenge to kind of not drop the head as much as anything else?
Yeah, it is. It's a very difficult one. I was involved in one in 2019 inside the Gaelic grounds, where we took a similar beating to Limerick. And it does suck the life out of you on the day. And the good thing about this group is they've great experience on the line and on the field. And they'll learn from 19 and previous years where we have had those bad days. And in fairness, we bounced back and we beat Cork then in the next group game after that Limerick loss. So I'd be hoping that the lads will bounce back, and they know that their season isn't defined by that Limerick game. It's just one group game. In 2018, we put a similar beating on Limerick in Cusack Park, and they ended up winning the All-Ireland that year. So it's just about bouncing back, Derek. That's the most important thing, and that's what good teams do. And like this team, a lot of this team have won All-Ireland not too long ago.
And I think that was something that was settled with a lot of people when they finally got to grips with being able to look anywhere on the Monday morning. Was a case of, we've actually lost the first round of Munster on a number of occasions, won the second round. So after 2 games, it's still 2 points on the board. And as you say, not season defining.
No, absolutely not. We've got a great opportunity to get out of Munster. And listen, it's great for a fan to know that, in the sense that if we lose at Tipperary at the weekend, which you don't want to do, all is not lost. We can beat Cork and still get out. But obviously you want to get to a Munster final. Score difference might come into it, but who's to say that like Waterford or Tipperary might take a draw to Limerick? Like, you just never know how this Munster Championship could pan out. So hopefully we get the win on Saturday, build a lot of momentum, get down to Cork, try to get a win, and who knows how the year can go. It's not going to be defined in one game.
But from a Tipperary perspective, I suppose this is a defining game for them, so they're always dangerous at home. But if you're Liam Cahill closing out the dressing room door and asking, are these Clare lads going to come down and into our All-Ireland defence, I think they'll be taking the hinges off and going out past him.
Yeah, I think both teams will be taking the hinges off the doors in Thurles, to be honest. They both will, like Tipperary will not be happy with how their first 2 games have gone. They'll be very disappointed losing at home to Cork, and then they'll be very disappointed with drawing. Like they had a game 1 below in Waterford, and like while Waterford, albeit Waterford had like 19 wides and 7 or 8 dropped short and didn't play their best hurling, the game was won. They made a lot of changes. Waterford turned momentum and they couldn't stop it. So they were very disappointed. And again, they'd have 2 weeks to prepare for this game. It's a really appetising game, like 2 teams coming at it from a like disappointed point of view and really want to give it everything. So it's one that you'd really look forward to. Obviously as a Clare fan you'd look forward to it, but I'd say Tip fans are looking forward to it too. And I would say it's a game that Tipperary obviously have to win, but even if they win it, they have to probably beat Limerick away or get a point against Limerick away. So it's a tough task for Tipperary.
Is it the kind of a game where it is really about the backs versus the forwards? Is it going to boil down to that on both sides?
Yeah, well, Clare, there's been a lot of question marks, I suppose, about Clare's like defence. We conceded 7 goals between the Dublin and the Waterford game, and then the Limerick game the last day. There seemed to be a lot of space at the back, and that seems to be a lot of the talk around the county after the game. I'm sure Clare will learn from that, and there might be kind of a few changes. I know in the past that like Jake Morris in the form he's in has caused us trouble. I think we probably match up better against the Tipperary forwards than the Limerick forwards. They'll play like their 3 inside, like Jason forward, probably John McGrath, and then they'll another like I don't know who will be in that slot. Maybe it'll be Andy Ormond or Jake Morris might slot in, but I think we do match up well better against the Tipperary forwards, and hopefully we'll kind of tie it down a bit more in defence. And I don't know what changes be made for the next day. I don't think anyone will know, to be honest, until we see him on the field on Saturday. We can all kind of speculate.
The views there of Podge Collins. I think everybody really looking forward to that 7 o'clock throw-in tomorrow evening in Thurles, and we will of course have full live commentary for you here on Clare FM. Time now though for Greyhound Focus and Alan Troy.
Clare FM's Greyhound News with Galway Greyhound Stadium. The ultimate night out for hens and stags. Enjoy racing and a choice of dinner or group admission packages.
Good evening and welcome to this week's Greyhound Focus. We commence tonight's report with news from Shelbourne Park Greyhound Stadium, where on Friday evening last, 2 Clare Greyhounds were the star performers. One of the most prestigious sweepstakes for the sprinting class in the country is the won-by-bet Island Bridge Open, and Termana Dream proved his credentials with a scorching 18:30 victory over the 350 yards trip. This was just 2 spots outside the track record. Dream is trained by Tullerbrack's Colin Fitzgerald, and this son of Ballyhimmakin Jet and Termana Jetty is owned by the 00 Syndicate, which comprises of Quilty's Nicholas O'Dwyer, Clare's Joe Kelly, with members of the Fitzgerald family, and this was his 10th career success. And the banner flag was flying again with Ballyea Warrior in the final of the Tote-Betting A1 N8 525 sweepstake final. This son of Ballymac Kingdom and Wolf of All Streets ran his opponents a merry dance with a very impressive 28-17 victory. Owned by Ballyea's Noel Gavin and trained by Liscanners Declan McDonough, this very promising young dog has won 7 out of his 9 starts. And Friday proved to be a prolific evening for Declan McDonough's kennels as he recorded a training double at Galway Greyhound Stadium in races 9 and 10 with Alva Chase and Norfolk and Chance. Owned by Declan and Gerard Lillis from Clare, Alva Chase recorded his sixth career success in 29.53, and he's a son of JT Taylor and Luna Rocket. And it was career win number 5 for Norfolk and Chance in 29.17. He's a son of Ballyea Jet and Raha Gogo. The opening contest was won by Lissatook Robbie for Seamus, James and Breed McMahon from Clare. A homebred son of Dearjet Sydney and Lissatook Peggy, he stopped the clock in 29.34. Glasheen Model made it 2 wins in the bounce for Brendan Brown from Donaha with a 19.24 victory over the 350 yards trip. She's a homebred daughter of Dramana Bucco and Glasheen Covid. The final of the Talking Dogs A6 was won by 3 bags of meat for Innis Dua, Johnny Burke and Jerry Maloney. She is a daughter of Ballyea Jet and Grangeview Nifty, and her winning time was 29.49. And from Limerick Greyhound Stadium on Saturday evening, Newmarket and Fergus's Miles Cummins and Breda Casey had a quick-fire double with Snuggy Tasha and Snuggy Carson, who entered the winners' enclosure with times of 28.91 and 28.74 respectively. That's all for this week, folks. Slán agus Bannock.
Clare FM's Greyhound News with Galway Greyhound Stadium. The ultimate night out for hens and stags. Enjoy racing and a choice of dinner or group admission packages.
Alan, thanks very much indeed for that.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Commission na Man with the television licence fee.
Now, next up to feature in our club profile series is a club that has given us not one but 2 All-Ireland winning captains in the form of Tony Kelly at senior level and Paul Flanagan at under-21 level. So certainly a storied history in the last couple of years, that's for sure. Diarmuid Constantine is the chairman and indeed Adele McMahon is the secretary. They're both with us here in studio. Thanks for having the time to come in to have a chat with us, lads. Diarmuid, I'll start with yourself. I suppose Ballyea in the last decade in particular has gone to new heights that few could have imagined.
Yeah, sure, look, it's been a great time. I suppose we were only talking on Tuesday that 9 years ago we were in Croke Park for Paddy's Day. So look, it's just been remarkable what has come through, and I suppose when you look at the Tonys and the Pauls and the Jacks and when young lads see them out in the pitch, and it just brings a great vibe to the club, and I suppose it grows everything as well. It's just been a great time.
Talk to me a little bit about your own background. How did you end up in this position?
A couple of years back, I suppose before Clubs app came on the scene, you just go down to the clubhouse to register. So I went down and registered my young lad, and I said, sure, look, I'll be around a few evenings if you need help. And I suppose from there I got involved with under 6s, under 8s. I'm up to under 13s this year as well. And 2 years ago I was asked would I like to come in as chairman, and I said, I don't know if I have the time, but look, it was great. It's a great place to meet people, and I suppose when we were talking about the book that we launched before Christmas, sport is, I suppose, the centre of every parish. Everything goes around sport or something relates back to sport, and I suppose when you trace back something, I actually have someone that's training with me at the minute, and we played in a schools game in primary good few years back, but it was only later that we got found out that we were actually marking each other. So it just shows you how sport goes around. Like, but it's great to be involved. You get to meet great people and you make great friends out of it.
They're dangerous words to say in a club. I'll be around, I'll help out, because that means you're going to be roped in for everything and anything. Like,
well, look, it's good. You know, it's when you go down in the evening there, it can be great to meet a few people below, and there's a bit of banter, and you kind of go away from the work scene. Like, I suppose people are very pressurised with work and stuff at the minute, and it's great to go down, or you could be down in the evening doing something, or going to games, or you might go away and win something. It's not always about winning, but it just gives that extra bit of boost, I suppose, to everything. It's great for everyone to do it.
And Adele, as I mentioned there, like, it's enough of an honour, I suppose, for a club to have a player in an All-Ireland final, but for the club to say we've 2 captains in Paul and Tony, like that night in Thurles was magic. But take me to Croke Park and what it meant to be of Ballyea in particular, I suppose, on that day.
Yeah, it was just super. It was great to see the lads there and to be able to support them. And, you know, when you're in the stand a lot, no matter where you're from, if you're from Ballyea or Newmarket, you sit with your neighbours, your friends, and yeah, it was just super to see them, and we were just delighted for them, absolutely delighted. And, you know, to be able to bring your children as well along, and like they're their heroes, you know, they look up to them. So it's a great day out for the kids also, young and old. You know, it was just super altogether, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit then about your own background in Ballyea. How do you get roped in here?
Well, I'm from Ballyea, so I would have always had an interest in the hurling. And just Fiona, our last secretary, approached me, and she would have known me from going to all the matches. And my own brother played junior B. Don has always been, you know, tipping around with Ballyea with a bit of hurling. So she approached me to do the role. So last year I was vice secretary and kind of followed her around to see what was involved. And so now I'm in the role of secretary this year. But it's been busy, but it's been very interesting. You don't realise the commitment other people give to a club till you're in a role yourself. Like with not only just players, but mentors, background team, people that look after the pitch in Ballyea. You know, there's just so much involved and a huge commitment. So, yeah, but it's been really interesting, and I've gotten to know Diarmuid and his wife and a few more people. So,
and
yeah,
you sound glad about it, which is a great vote of confidence, I suppose, of
yeah,
him as a chairman.
So far, so good.
And I suppose for a club like Ballyea, we know there's a heavy West Clare influence there. You know, even going back to, we did a programme out in the local before the Munster Club final a couple of years ago, and Donald Kelly spoke about meeting the people in Clonmel and coming back and getting those players, the likes of, you know, Stan at the time and Marty O'Leary and all those, Carmel Coughlin playing a huge role in that, obviously. So then, like, to meld all that together, I suppose that's another unique club challenge.
Yeah, it is. But I suppose if you look back years ago when I was growing up in Ballyea, if we didn't have those sort of players, we wouldn't have barely fielded a team. You know, so they've been a great support as well to us to be able to get those players on board and, you know, to make up the numbers, which has been, you know, super.
And as we mentioned here, but like in fairness, the last decade has been savage stuff altogether. But I did an interview one time with Tony, and he was talking about the lads that probably played on a little bit longer than maybe they should have in order to keep the club at senior level. Like you referenced Paddy O'Connell and fellas like that soldiered hard when times were tough to give them, I suppose, the platform from which they raised it again.
Oh yeah, look, it's people like that, I suppose, that have made the club. Like at the minute this year, we actually have 4 teams in. We have senior and we have a few junior teams. Like a couple of years back, they were probably under pressure to try and keep one team going. Like it just, but like when you go down, you'll see all the older people are still coming, but like they're lads that would have played in hard times and kept everything going and maybe struggled to get to 15 out at times. But that's what brings a club together. Like without that, you probably find it hard to survive at times. Like, but it keeps coming on. You can see there at the minute with younger generations coming through, like that filters down through all the groups. So it strengthens the club. Like without that, you find it hard.
And I suppose it does create issues, but there are issues every club would love to have. Where will we fit them all?
We have that problem all the time. But look, yeah, it does bring its challenges when you're trying to make the facilities work for such numbers. It can create roadblocks, but we have a person in charge of the pitch, and to be fair, every year I don't know how he manages to keep everything turned around, but everyone gets their slot and games get played, and everyone goes home happy after each slot. So it's look, it's great. It's great. We have the smaller Astra, which is taking off the pressure a bit as well, and it's look, we're probably at the point where the facilities need to grow another bit, and hopefully the future will bring that. We opened a walking track there late last year, and it's been massive for the winter. Like it's been every night you're down there, there's probably 30-40 people. You can have a bit of banter, and it just brings more people. Like a lot of people are probably new to the area, and it's hard to go down and meet people, or you might know people, and people can be shy, but it's been great to develop relationships like that, and it's great to see new faces around the club.
And Edel, on that theme of community, I remember being at one of the homecomings, I think it might have been after the All-Ireland final, again back at the local, and Robbie Hogan, who's back in charge again now, was telling a story of their time training. And I think you might be able to correct me on this, but was it the Slob, I think he said, was where they used to train? And he mentioned robbing apples from an orchard on their way home, and I think he apologised to the man that owned the orchard on that particular night. But like, there is just such a lovely community sense about the club.
There is, and I think that's always been there. I don't know what it is about Ballyea. Ballyea's gotten very big in the last number of years. You know, our school is nearly full next year with a lot. There's new junior infants coming into the school, but we haven't lost that country spirit. There's still a country vibe in Ballyea, even though it's quite big and it's sprawling now. You know, it's quite a sprawling community. But maybe it's down to the likes of Robbie that, you know, he's a great person to have in the community. All the lads are mad about him. He's a very affable kind of a fellow, and he's good to look up to, and he's good to have around. And I don't know, it's just everyone gets on with everyone, you know, in Ballyea, and that community spirit is very intact with us, and hopefully it'll always be there, you know.
And Dermot, if someone was to say to you, you know, outside of, we'll say 2016 onwards, for you, what would have been some of the big moments for Ballyea as a club?
I suppose even when they came up from junior to senior was a big step, like, and to be able to keep up, like a lot of clubs can come up and come under pressure then, and you may have to go down and come up again. But like, I think there's a real backbone in the club where it's very driven, and like when we get to something we like to achieve, that we're going to go forward from there. You can see it like down the pitch. I suppose there's always a very positive attitude that we can do and will do. And look, yeah, some days don't always go your way, but we just have that. There's just that positivity, I suppose, around Ballyea that kind of knits the whole area together. It's as Edel said, it's a very country-based area, but when we're so close to town, people kind of nearly think you're in town. Like, you know, you're only a couple of minutes from town, but you're still in the country. Like, but it's a great place. There's some great people around, and even going back to the book, some of the stories that we came across, and like there's a field across from the current pitch where they played hurling back a few years back, and like they had 2 stones either end, that was the goals. Like, so just shows you how much the parish has and the sport has brought forward. Like, it's just incredible.
And of course there was that very memorable final with the neighbours in the road as well, and the one man that was common to it all in Fergie as well. Like, I mean, that has obviously gone down in folklore.
It is, yeah. Look, there's great history between the two areas, and look, I suppose both clubs are moving forward with the numbers they have and how they're going forward. It is. Look, there's great banter there between the two of them. I suppose that's all you can put it down to.
And I suppose one at a higher level than the other might be mentioned a couple of times as well,
slightly,
around the border areas.
Slightly.
They bring me back to that day in 2016 and that day in the rain against Clare and Marty's late goal, and I suppose what that sparked for the parish and where it finished up.
Oh, it was just unreal. It's just something you'll never forget. It feels like it was yesterday. I think that first win was so sweet. It was unreal. I was due my son 9 days later, and all I wanted to do was tear out onto the pitch afterwards, and my husband wouldn't let me go out. So that's what I remember as well. But it was nail-biting stuff. It was absolutely nail-biting stuff. It ebbed and flowed throughout that game, and I suppose we felt we left it afterwards the first day against Clonlara, but look, it was great to get that win, and the celebrations was unreal. The bonfires were lit around Ballyea, going out to the local that night, and it was just unreal.
And what it sparked afterwards then, like that Thurles Sarsfields game, there's 2 moments that stand out for me. One is Gary's goal when he just horsed off Maher and just left him in his wake, and off his weaker side finished it to the net to bring it to extra time. But there was a 65 in extra time, might have been the last play of the game, but I was on sideline duty for the commentary, and I just watched Niall Deasy, and while all the carnage was going on around him, he was there just soloing the ball away, and the hurley took absolutely no notice. Like, it was a real microcosm of the attitude of the group on that particular year.
Yeah, he's kind of a cool, collected individual anyway, DC, but he always kind of performs when you need him. He'll pull it out of the bag, you know, and he does it in such a calm but precise way. Yeah, it was unreal.
And then they were like to decamp to Croke Park on that Paddy's Day. Like, we were from Clonmurray Brick, and we were lucky enough to do it a couple of years previous, and we were there a couple of years ago. Then we through Clonlara for the Camogie. But like, the scenes around the parish that week, and the signs from the crossroads in Knockalock all the way over along, like, it was just so special.
It was like, and even that morning we went up on the train, like, it was an All Ireland, like, it was the same feeling. Like, the result just didn't happen to be that day, but it was still a great experience. It was a great day for the club. Like, there's a lot of clubs try all their life and they just don't get that far. Like, but yeah, the hype around the parish was excellent that week. It's hard to believe that it's actually that length of time ago. It only feels like it was yesterday for some reason, but hopefully this year we'll have another crack at it.
But what do you think that did for the club as a whole then, to be on that stage, to have reached that pinnacle?
I suppose it lifts the spirit. Like, I suppose you become a parish then maybe that was maybe not as known as it was. Like we've had some big names through the club, you know, the Tonys, the Jacks, the Pauls, Tony Griffin. But I suppose until you're at a level like that where you're fighting for top silverware, I suppose you become a prominent club then, and you're seen to be there. Like, I suppose it puts a buzz into the club too, that it develops it more. Like, everyone wants to come back, and lads want to play hurling. Like, even after the All Ireland in 24, you've probably seen a massive amount of numbers coming. Maybe kids that were sitting on the fence about hurling. Like, it gave a big boost, I think, to the whole county for that size of thing, and that's what builds clubs. Like, without underage numbers coming up and the superstars up there that they see, like, that's what brings it all together. It's a case of then that the club just has to adapt and try and give the facilities and give the time. And look, there's a lot of coaches, and there's, like, every club, there's so many volunteers that's what keeps clubs going. Like, and without them, we'd all find it hard to keep going.
And outside of the on the field, we'll say top level stuff, Denny Dell, is that the next challenge for the club, to make sure that everything's there to cater for what is clearly a blossoming and blooming section?
Oh, absolutely. And we have fabulous underage coaches as well that come on year after year and look after, you know, all the young people of the parish and the community, and they just give so much of their time. They're fabulous people, and you can just see now when the hurling starts back again for, like, I think the under-10s will be starting back in a few weeks, and they just can't wait to get back to training. You know, you just see them the minute the car pulls up outside the pitch, they're out and running to their whatever team they have to go to. But yeah, our underage coaches are fabulous, and they just give so much time and commitment.
And I suppose it's like the Rolling Stone with the Moss. If you have 20 or 30 young lads, that's 20 or 30 sets of parents you can go on target and try and knock something out of them as well.
Well, we're trying. Yeah. We're trying, yeah. But, you know, we have a shop now at Ballyea at the pitch. So we did that last year, and just trying to rope in a few more people to come on board and run that as well. It's another little added bonus to the parish as well.
And that's, Dermot, something I've seen a lot of clubs mention, is the fact that they're seeing less and less now of young lads coming down to training with Liverpool and Man United tops and stuff like that. The advent of the club shop and the club gear, I think it's so much nicer to see them in that.
It is, look, and it's good for young lads to have it, I suppose, and they wear it with pride too. Like, you know, they're all very proud of their club and their parish, and like last year, Ballyea School, one of schools, like, there's lads from that are gone on to Flannan's this year that are on some of the teams there. Some of them are gone on to Clare Development. No, it builds, I suppose the win builds the confidence, and you just move on from there. And like the shop has been, it's been a big benefit. Like, even on match days there, I think last year, I know we were playing Broadford or someone, and a few lads came up, and there was a bit of banter around the window of the shop. And like, at the end of the day, I suppose sport is a very close-knit community where anyone that's coming from another club, there's always a bit of banter. You mightn't necessarily know the person, but you'll get to meet people, and someone will say, oh, where did you get that? Or, do you know where I can get that? Or, just, that's a good idea, we might do that in our club. Or we go to another club, and you'll be looking around to see what they have that you could improve your own facilities with. Like, I suppose at the end of the day, it's just about trying to give everyone the best chance they can have, like, and give them the facilities as close to what they need.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I remember speaking to Donald Kelly on the Fair Green the night of the homecoming, and he told me that he had the bed ready in Ballyea for Liam McCarthy that night. So I'm hoping and praying that Liam McCarthy spends another night maybe in Ballyea in 2026. But to you both, thanks so much for coming in, and best of luck for the year ahead.
Thanks, Derek.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Commission Naman with the television licence fee.
And that is the end of this week's Sideline View. Huge weekend ahead. We'll see you all in Thurles, and we'll wrap it all up on Monday.